Good afternoon. Just to make you aware, I'm having a power outage, so let us hope it continues till it lasts. Don't be surprised if I have to log off in between because of the power outage. But otherwise, we will start now and let us see and hope it continues. Right? The meeting is being recorded. Everything is good. हाँ जी बोलिए. This is a cargo work session. If I remember and if you will recall, we were on the discussion of steel loading. We had completed part of it and we'll now attempt to finish it off. I mean, let's see how it goes. Steel loading, right? Can you recall? One of the most important points about steel loading is the survey, because it is a sensitive cargo, and as we had talked, a lot of claims come from cargo damage due to moisture. So it is important to have a survey done even before loading, which is called a pre-loading survey. Please confirm you can see the shared screen. Anji, shared screen is possible?
Yes, sir.
Also, you will need to remember that most of the claims on a steel loading come from damages due to moisture resulting in rust. So, we had talked about it that a pre-loading survey is absolutely necessary so that anything which is noticed before loading can be closed on the mid sheet and then copied on the bill of lading. Now, because you may have a finished steel product, it will be difficult to ascertain whether the damage occurred during loading or while on board. Hence, it is important to examine steel and finished steel before loading and identify any damage which is already there present. This is necessary to prove to the cargo receiver that the damage was occurred prior to shipment and not on board, so that the vessel is absolved. Otherwise, the claim will come on the vessel. Normally, it is the P&I clubs who will arrange for the preloading survey from the owner's perception, or it could be a joint survey from charterer, cargo owner, and ship owner. Joint survey is also possible. Now, the basic rule for any cargo remains the same. That is, to be discharged as loaded, just as loaded, to be discharged as loaded, in that apparent condition as loaded. That is the bottom line. Cargo to be discharged as loaded, in the same condition as loaded. Liabilities are heavy for the ship owner due to damage of the finished steel, and this is why a pre-loading survey needs to be carried out and bill of lading claused accordingly. Wet before shipment, one of them we saw wet before shipment. Maybe if that is the case, it should be claused like that. When we say finished steel, for which issue is there, it will include these: hot or cold rolled steel coils, steel wire coils, steel plates, bars, profiles, channels, angles, and joints. Steel, sheet steel, sheet of pipes, these are all examples of finished steel. It does not include semi-finished steel slabs, scrap steel, or steel bars. It does not include that. How is the survey done actually? Procedure. One of the primary duties of the surveyor, which may be a P&I craft surveyor, is to inform the vessel of suitable clauses to endorse on the mercy sheet and bill of lading. Suitable clauses are also one of the jobs the P&I surveyor will undertake. Advise the ship on suitable clauses, because that will prevent any claims against the vessel. The surveyor may examine ship's hatch covers, cargo holds, etc., and point out any hatch cover defects that could give rise to leakages. They are qualified people, they are experienced people, so they can also advise to the ship and master if they detect any cause which could give rise to leakages. Please remember, this will go as one of the precautions. Preloading survey will be one of the precautions. And the normal question: what are the precautions involved in planning, carriage, planning, stowage, carriage, and discharge of steel cargo? While this preloading survey is going on, it will also be the right time to ascertain how this product was transported from the steel mill to the port. Was it stored in an open port, open to weather? Was it arriving at port or berth? While arriving at berth, was it protected, covered, etc.? This has to be closed. Or was it arriving alongside the vessel in open weather, open to weather? Please remember, there is a possibility, I have at least witnessed it, that you may have the product, steel product, coming from a mill or from a factory, carried onto the trailer, exposed to weather, and being transported alongside, where maybe it is passing over a bridge where salt spray might be resulting. Now this is very serious. Or the steel may be stored close to the sea, delivered by barge. Then of course again the contamination with wind and wind carried salt is possible. If the steel is packaged, which is also possible, we saw it, it could be packaged steel, then it is all the more difficult to ascertain. And now the surveyor who is doing the preloading survey will have to pay attention to the condition of packaging, whether this is damaged or not, or missing, or wet. So this also has to be closed, just in case it is packaged steel, it is wrapped, then it has to be remarked: outer cover wet, outer cover torn, outer cover torn, contents exposed, like this. One of the most important points of doing a preloading survey is doing a silver nitrate test. I'm sure you have heard about it, silver nitrate test. Before we go to this, please note, preloading survey will also involve the surveyor examining steel when it is stored in the port. And this is actually recommended that the ship's officer should also accompany him. for his records, he can also make a careful noting. How the steel is stored in the port, which also involves noting the storage condition. Is it covered? Has it got a shed over it to protect from weather? This is very important. And also note that each parcel of steel is to be examined. Steel may come in different lots, lot A, lot B, lot C, like this. So each parcel has to be examined separately. It is possible that the cargo is loaded in 24 hours period, but loading is erratic and intermittent, in which case this becomes all the more difficult. Erratic means stopped, maybe rain period. Then the whole thing has to be repeated. The whole exercise of preloading survey has to be repeated because rain stoppage, so now it has to be examined again. Please note this, all this has to go as precautions. Detailed notes of any damage seen is to be carefully documented. Please note many times shippers have remarked that they do not make much money out of freight, but they make money out of claims for stealing. It is not a good idea to remark like saying 150 bundles, 150 bundles of steel bars loaded, and 95 show minor buckling. This is not good because nobody can ascertain which 95 bundles is being talked about. So this has to go by identification mark of the lots. Lot A, bundle number 76, damaged. It has to go like this. Very importantly, maybe it is not mentioned here, but please note, you will need to remark on the made receipt. Separation of lots means separation of lot 1, lot 2, lot 3 as per shipper's discretion. It is not you who decided to separate the lots by different color codes, etc. Separation of lots for the bundles was done by at shipper's discretion so that he becomes accountable why the lots have been separated. Also, please note a minor remark but important one. Do not allow anyone to take photographs while you are loading steel. Do not allow anyone to take photographs because that can create problem later on. You are not sure who is the one person who is taking photographs. Maybe he has not presented the credentials, and if he takes photographs, this can be reproduced in a court of law against claims. So do not allow anyone to take photographs. Then we come to this point about silver nitrate testing. Very important one for steel loading. Of course, this can be used anywhere while any cargo is being loaded, but for steel it becomes very important. Silver nitrate testing. This silver nitrate actually, the basis or the basic compound is a clear solution. Silver nitrate, AgNO3. When it reacts with NaCl or salt, it gives a white precipitate AgCl, silver chloride, which is white in color. So this is indicating that there is some salt present on the surface on which silver nitrate has been sprayed. You get the point? I'm sure you've used it. Let me try and write it out just for simplicity. AgNO3, that is silver nitrate. Hopefully the chemical formula is correct. Otherwise you will get the gist only. That is okay. We are not in the chemistry class, but just to make matters more clear, this is the chemical. This, when it gets mixed with what you call chloride, salt, NaCl, then the reaction gives out what is called AgCl, silver chloride, which is white in color, precipitate. And it could contain NaNO3, which I don't know, could be any color, but more importantly, AgCl is white in precipitate. This indicates there is a presence of salt on the surface on which you have sprinkled silver nitrate. So that is a test. In fact, if you are loading steel cargo, or if you have been ordered to load steel cargo, you must ensure that you have silver nitrate solution in your store. Otherwise, order it. You must have it. The very fact that you have performed this test is good evidence that you have taken a proactive measure to ensure that your hold is salt free, because you might have rinsed your hold, you might have washed your holes with salt water to clean it. Then of course another recommendation is, if you have washed your holes with salt water with good pressure of salt water, because you cannot have fresh water with so much pressure, fire line pressure. So if you have used salt water to wash your holes, then you should rinse with fresh water prior you start loading, and perform the silver nitrate test on the whole bulkheads. It is also possible that this test is done by receiver at the discharge port, because he might be suspecting that the cargo has been damaged in transit while the vessel was in voyage. So he might want to perform this test at the discharge port. And God forbid he finds some chloride, AgCl, white precipitate on the bulkheads at the discharge ports, then obviously claims will arise. Even before doing the test, you must ensure that the area being tested is free from contamination. Otherwise, you will get a precipitate. Test is very simple. Squeeze a few drops of nitrate solution onto the wet or rusty area, and then see if it comes in with a white precipitate. As soon as the precipitate appears, it is a clear indication that there is a presence of chlorides, which is obviously salt in our case. But of course, positive results just show chlorides are present. It does not show how it entered. It cannot show how the seawater entered, but it does show that seawater was present. Then, of course, the blame game will start. You must rinse the holes with fresh water after you have washed them down with salt water. This is a very, very must point. You must rinse it with fresh water after you have washed with salt water, because fresh water may not be available in large quantity to be pressurized and used with a fire line. But you use salt water, okay, no problem. but then rinse it with fresh water prior to starting loading. Once you have done this, once the tests have become okay, positive, and everything is good, then you must ensure that everything is sealed tight. Hatch covers, watertight, sorry, weathertight rather. Build system tight, holes are free from salt, etc. Once you have got a good result of silver nitrate test. If the silver nitrate test is tested with chlorides, result is positive, chlorides are present, then you have to inform all concerned, including shippers, because that will involve closing of bills of lading and base receipt. And also, it is possible that once you have advised the shipper, he might like to separate this particular lot so that other cargo is not affected. Bills of lading, very important for steel cargo, because why I am discussing with you, although you are not the one who will sign the bill of lading, is because मेड सीट के में आप clauses डालोगे as chief officer, and those clauses will be copied on the bill of lading. That is why you get involved. It is a record of quantity of cargo and apparent order and condition. That is bill of lading. There are three functions of bill of lading. Can you recall them? Three functions. We have done that. Three functions of bill of lading.
The title, and the contract and carrier. Title document.
Legal document in the Preet. What one? You're saying something. I think you're right, but can you repeat, please?
Yes, sir. It is a title document, legal document, and it is a contract between the shipper and the carrier. Contract also. And
Sir, receipt of
sorry,
the
ये दो point याद है.
Yeah, receipt of goods on board. These are the three functions of bill of lading. Please remember, this is also part of the syllabus. We have talked about it, and the question has appeared once off or not. Right? Three functions of BL. So one, document of title. Whoever holds the BL is the document of title. Two, evidence of contract or charter party between shipper and the cargo ship owner. And lastly, it is a receipt of cargo on board. These are the three functions of BL. So this is, as we have talked about it, whatever clauses you are putting on MIDS sheet is going to be copied on the BL. That is the law. In apparent condition, how you can see it. So this becomes very important for claims. Whoever possesses the original BL at the port of discharge is actually the one who is entitled to receive the cargo at the discharge port. So it is very important that description of the cargo is accurately recorded on the BL, which has to be copied from MIDS. Now, rusting is a very sensitive issue for steel cargo. Rust percentage can vary from piece to piece. Maybe one side of a beam being totally rusted, other side being not rusted at all. Therefore, you have to close it appropriately. Now, standard clauses for steel are broken down into three categories: rust spotted, partly rusty, and rusty with up to 15%, 15% to 75%, and over 75% on the visible surfaces. This is how it is claused. And these are some recommended clauses which you have to put down on Mercy sheet first and then on the BL. See, flat bound steel plate, reference number so and so. This is over here. Rusted so many percentage of surface and buckled along edges. This is a clause. Profile reference number by the lot number, flanges, webs, corner, edges, bent, buckled, distorted, and maybe you can mention along 30% of its length. Coil, of course, is very sensitive. Coil reference number. Each coil is marked with a reference number. Ripped, torn, distorted, or maybe along the edges only. These are only examples of what kind of clauses you may encounter while you are doing the mid sheet or subsequently BL. Plate, bar, channel, profile, coil, reference number so and so, loaded in wet damage rain condition before shipment. This is a clause. Rust spot, partly rusty, dusty before shipment. You get some idea, right? This is how coils will be handled. Forklifts used not to damage any edges. This forklift with a long bar inserted to lift the coil. Coil friendly tying, it's said. Coil friendly, so as to not damage the coil. Coils are normally stored in tiers. Then what happens is it may not be possible to store the coil using ship's gear or maybe even outboard gear, shore gear to the exact position. So what it is done is this is generally placed in the hatch square and then use the forklift to stack them. Now as each successive tier or row is completed, the coils are lashed before next tier is loaded. Gap is of course left between successive rows for lashing purpose. Now when you're using forklift, it is strongly recommended. 1 minute, give me a minute. You need to just see that photograph again. Or maybe it is down. 1 minute. As you're handling coils, you should use what is called a forklift friendly tine. This is called a forklift friendly tine. This part. This is only the one which should be used. Not grabbed, not used by clamping. No, just the coil friendly tine. This causes minimum damage to the coil. Minimum. Please note that as we are discussing, you may keep this in mind or maybe note down for precautions to be taken. We have reached the point of precautions to be taken while loading. Dunnage is to be used extensively for two functions of dunnage. One, so that the load is uniformly spread, and secondly to provide frictional resistance. So this is the use of tonnage. Two functions performed: one to spread the load of the steel uniformly, and then secondly to provide frictional resistance, because steel to steel contact should be avoided and will provide no resistance at all, frictional resistance. So tonnage is applied to provide resistance, frictional resistance. Normally steel is loaded in the 4.5 direction, but starting from forward, working towards aft. If loading coils, then coils is always used or inserted with a key coil. Key coil is the purpose to lock it. It is also called locking coil. We are just going to see it also. Key coil. This takes up any gap between coils during ship movement. And of course, the cleanliness of the hold is understood, free from every debris, any raised objects. If you land coils on bulldog grips or ring bolts or shackles, this will cause damage to the coil itself. Never use clamps to lift up coils. Always use forklifts with coil-friendly tines. If you use clamps, this can harm the coil. Again, cargo claim can arise. When you are using wire lashings or when you are using chains, for example, to lash the steel, you should ensure that chafing does not happen, and this is superimposed by using rubber sheathing over the lashing material. Some rubber is used to prevent chafing of the steel by the lashing itself. When you're talking of lashing of the coils, then the best method is to secure the top coil to the coil immediately below, instead of securing the entire stone. Secure the top coil to the coil immediately below. By this method, the top coil acts as a cap holding the remainder in place, because it is lashed to the rest of it. So lash the top coil to the coil immediately below it. And of course, profiles, steel plates, etc., they can be secured by a variety of methods. Just a sense of perception that it should not move. It should not be an idea to lash the coils or steel to the ship structure. That is not good. They should be lashed together, of course, but not to the structure. A watch, of course, has to be maintained. Cargo watch goes without saying, and documented with clear recordings, means noting down of any event. This can help to reduce claims. During the watch or the watch period, the officer should note any cargo damage, any stevedore damage to the ship, cargo condition, instruction given to stevedore for lashing or lashing gangs, times when hatches were opened or closed, stoppages due to weather, this all should be recorded for statement of fact. Very correctly remark photographs to be used for supplementing information. Normally, you have skilled stevedots and specialized equipment for loading steel, but having said that, any port can be involved. They will all claim skill levels, but then it may not be so. That is why you as chief officer and your duty officer have to be especially vigilant. Everyone claims to be skilled, but damages are found, damages have resulted in past also, and damage can be done to the ship also by unskilled labor, unskilled stevedores, causing damage to the vessel structure. Ideally, steel coil should be loaded in a minimum of 2 tiers. Ideally. But if loaded with a single tier, then locking coil is absolutely essential. Key or locking coil. Are you familiar with this term of key coil or locking coil? We are going to come back to this. I want you to see this one so that you always understand what I am talking about. Locking coil. This is the locking coil. Single tier, and this is the locking coil, or like this in the photograph. This is called the locking coil or key coil, whatever you want to call. Ideally, key coil. We are going to talk about this one, the force, etc., the distance. Just now we will talk, but I wanted you to see this one so that when we talk about it, you are aware what I am talking about. Is single tier, this one, and a key coil, one key coil. This is called the key coil. Please note timber or dunnage or chalks are also used to come to a good gap between them. Chalks may be used, timber may be used. You can see here in the photograph like this. You see this one. This is used correctly stored. Wedge has been used, timber has been used, bottom has got dunnage. Yeah, we come back to it. Let's finish this part, then we come back to it. So the correct method, the gap should not be greater than 60% of the key coil diameter. Then the key coil, otherwise the key coil could be damaged or crushed. Pyramid loading is something that stevedores prefer, but it is a method which should be avoided or should be discouraged. Pyramid loading, because excessive weight can get transferred to the ship's tank top, and then it is also difficult to lash pyramid coils one on top of the other. So, are you able to, or tell me if you are able to write a list of precautions to be taken for steel loading? Generally, general list. Can you see this? The shared screen. Please make a note. I don't know how you're going to come to conclusion. I've tried and list out some things for you to make sure that this is generic for any steel loading. This is our do's and don'ts. Let me see if I can expand it, zoom it a little more. So I suggest you note it down. When you note it down, you will remember it. And if you cannot follow anything, please raise it. Yeah, let us continue. This part is done. Have you rotated?
नहीं सर, लिख रहे हैं, लिख रहे हैं.
Okay, okay. I stop here or go further up? Tell me.
सर फर्दर अप.
Further up, okay. यहीं से शुरू हुआ है. Pre-planned steel storage. Do you understand this point? To make sure steel is stored on solid floors. Solid floors. Key coils positioned correctly, which we are going to see again, but steel should be stored on solid floors. ये चीज आपको समझ आई? Just give me a minute. I want to make sure that you understand this. ये देखो, this is a cross section through a bulk carrier, which is double skin, and this is the solid floor in the double bottom. ये tank top है ऊपर. Look at my point. This is called solid floor. Now, what is recommended is that the steel is stored on top of this. If the load bearing should be done by the solid floors because this is specially strengthened. Tank top ये रहा, solid floor इसके नीचे on the double on the DB tank. So the recommendation to store the steel, stow STOW, store the steel on solid floors. Disregard this 1200 mm. This is just an example. It will depend on the class. But solid floors, I wanted to show and discuss with you. This is what is recommended to store the steel on top of these solid floors, which you are going to mark. This is the idea. You mark the solid floors using your plans, mark it so that the distributors know कि कहाँ पे रखना है कार्गो को. Get it? Mark the location of solid floors in the cargo space to enable easy reference for distributors during loading. You can easily come to it because you know कहाँ पे solid floor है, going by your plan. Then mark it maybe by a white line or something so that distributors are made aware that they have to store the cargo on this particular section. Okay, you can keep noting down. You may have your Kit Kat coffee break also at the same time, and we will resume discussion at 15:45. But I'm going to leave the screen open for you in case you're copying anything, right? You can also have your
Okay
coffee.
sir.
Coffee also can be done, right? See you again. So how are we doing? Are we done with this one? Or we are still noting? Some very important points. Example, wet before shipment. Any concerns? Anything you do not follow? Why we are just noting down is because points have been already discussed. It is a matter of now keeping in mind as you note down. We have already discussed these points. This is why I'm asking you, if there is any point which you do not follow, we can talk about it. If you do have to load damaged cargo, which could be, just the requirement, cannot avoid it, then load it separately so that this can be endorsed on the details by details on the bill of lading. Load it separately, easily identifiable that this was the damaged cargo. Periods of rain need to be captured carefully in the statement of fact. And of course, as a proactive measure, you will also add holes were loading was stopped and holes were closed. Holes were covered rather, technically, holes were covered. Dew point temperatures for ventilation to be carefully recorded, records to be maintained. Simple formula: cold to hot, ventilate not; hot to cold, ventilate cold. Even without going into the intricacies of dew point, this is a ventilation mantra: cold to hot, ventilate not; hot to cold, ventilate cold. Because the GM is going to be, you know, an issue, so take measures to reduce high values. GM is always going to be high by numerical value because of steel, which is going to be raised down. So GM is going to be very high value. So you should take measures to reduce high values, especially making sure that you're not having any slack tanks to give rise to free surface. And when carrying steel, ideally you should be weatherproofed to avoid any predominant swell conditions and heavy rolling. Synchronized rolling, parametric rolling, then the wavelength of the swell is that half of the ship's length that can initiate parametric rolling. And this will attenuate, will be more and pronounced in slender ships during pitching. Steel coils are normally lashed to themselves, to each other, and chalk, of course. Are we done with this one? Then we go to the don'ts. What do you say? This part is noted, followed, understood. And then we can move on to what is called don'ts. We have seen do's, now we see don'ts. Like this. Stevedores are not to be relied on for determining cargo storage. They will opt for the best, easiest storage rather than the best. They will opt for the easiest storage. So you will be the one who will determine the cargo storage depending on the maximum allowable tank top loading weight. You must ensure a homogeneous weight distribution. Particular attention has to be paid for the ventilation part of the steel cargo, and this should be done only when the relative humidity of outside air is greater than that of the cold air, or dew point is greater than the temperature of the cargo. This is all going as precaution. Please remember. Do's and don'ts. Do not store steel products in the same compartment as cargo with different ventilation requirements. You are storing steel products in the same cargo hold, but ventilation requirements will be different. That is not a good idea because steel ventilation will be done very carefully, otherwise, you will have rusting. So what do you say? This one is done. You have made a note for this. Do's and don'ts. Shall we move on? Or somewhere you want to go back? It's up to you. Okay, you are not responding. I believe that you must have noted down so we can continue. We come to a important point about steel coils. When we talk about steel coils, the important point is the key coil, locking coil, and how it should be done. For which some measurements are there, some rules to be followed. Please confirm you can see the share screen. And of course, you will also need to make these diagrams single tier. This is a single tier, and there is a single tier key coil. Now, the idea behind this is that this is how it is done, single tier. Can you see the share screen? Yeah, you should be able to. When you're talking of single tier, then the key coil is placed where this measurement or this distance is less than 60% of the coil diameter. Coil has a diameter. This distance should be less than 60% of the coil diameter, like this in the photograph. So when we are talking of locking coil, key coil in an answer, this has to be reproduced as it is. If you see these particular coils are going to have 1.5 times the coil weight, because this is 100% and 50% of this coil, the key coil. But distance should be less than 60% of the coil diameter. So from the photograph you can see, diagram is this one. From the photograph you can see that this distance should be less than 60% of the coil dia, and this is wedged. Dunnage is used so that the coil is resting against the bulkhead with wedges in between. That is for single tier, single key coil. Next, single tier 2 key coils. This is again a single tier but 2 key coils. The method will remain the same. This distance has to be less than 60% of the coil dia, but 2 key coils have been placed, one here and one here. Now these are the recommended methods of course, but then when you're doing it for your own vessel, then you will have to see that this 150% weight exerted by using a key coil, is it going to be okay with your tank top density, tank top load density? This will have to be considered. This is a recommended method, but finally when you're doing it, you will have to also consider whether 150% weight exerted by these two coils and the key coil is going to be enough. I mean, it is going to be withstanding the tank top density, load density will withstand it. Now, it can happen. It can happen that this distance you are having more than 60% of the coil dia, this distance. But you want to exert a key coil that is going to lock it. So you exert these wedges or dunnage to reduce the distance. This is when the key coil gap is greater than 60% of the coil dia. Then you use dunnage to shorten the distance. Now this one is showing you a wrong method. The key coil is here, but it is exceeding the 60% rule. Therefore, this key coil can collapse during voyage. No use. Now you may have different size coils. Then this is the method used. You may have different size coils. Then of course you use one key coil over here, lash it with this one, another key coil here, lash it with this one. But the rule is to have the majority of the weight of the key coil on the smaller coil. This coil size and this coil size are different, and this is the key coil. Majority of the weight of the key coil is on the smaller coil. To not to exceed point load weights. Side dunnage is being used here to reduce what is called point load, side dunnage, against the ship side. Pyramid loading is not allowed, as we saw. Pyramid loading like this, 3, 2, 1. This is pyramid loading. This is not allowed. This is discouraged because this is going to exceed point loads. For example, if you are doing like this particular coil is going to exert 250%, and this will exceed the point load. So pyramid loading is not allowed. Pyramid loading should be completely avoided. This is okay. The second one, this is not pyramid loading. This is okay. Two key coils have been used, but the point load is only 200% instead of 250%. 175%, 175% has been reduced to 150 and 150. This is allowed. So I'm sure that you have sketched out something. This is a question which has been asked, how to secure coils. Then you will give these examples, single tier, different size coils, etc. Right? We are good with this. I can stop for 1 minute if you are still drawing. Single tier, single T coil, key coil. Single tier, two key coils. This is the easiest one, single tier, one key coil. Just remember the spacing between these two coils where the key coil is placed should be less than 60% of the coil diameter. When we are talking like this, we are assuming all coils are of the same diameter. Even if this is not a thing, maybe you have coils of different sizes, then you can go and move on to here. And like this, different sizes. So this size is different, then you can do it like this. The majority of the weight should be on the smaller coil to avoid point loss, and they are lashed together, and of course, pyramid loading is not allowed. I hope you are clear with this. Coil same dia, but the distance cannot be reduced. 60% law cannot be followed. Then you insert wedges or wooden chocks to reduce the distance here. Otherwise, it will result in something like this. As you can see, the store is likely to collapse because key coil is exceeding 60% load. Then the coil will just sink downwards during motion of the vessel. So, for my suggestion, I would say that you should draw these ones. You should have with you these diagrams. Number one, single tier key coil. This one, single tier key coil. You can make this diagram, keep it for your record and reference, and whenever you want to revise it. Single tier key coil. Going further, single tier two key coils. This is also good one. Single tier but two key coils. But the rule will remain the same. This key coil to be inserted at a distance less than 60% of the coil dia. That rule will stand. or if the key coil gap is greater than 60%, then you insert wedges like this to reduce the distance and make it around 60%. So I'm circling the ones which I feel you should have with you. Tell me when you are done, we can move on.
Done, sir.
Sorry, हाँ जी डन. You are saying done है. चलें आगे.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. ये देखा आपने? Have you drawn this one? When the diameter is more than, I mean, when the size gap is greater than 60%, then you insert these wedges of wooden blocks, dunnage, to reduce it. Simple method. And then this is the one with two different size coils. If the coil sizes are different, then this is the method you will employ. Single tier, one key coil, but different size coils. Just to remember that majority of the weight of the key coil will be transferred to the smaller coil. Over here, this one. And of course, this is only for understanding. Pyramid loading is not allowed, incorrect, and this is the correct way. No pyramid. 3, 2, 1 करके pyramid loading नहीं करनी है. This is correct method. 3 and 2. Key coil is over here. And have you understood why pyramid loading should not be done?
No, sir.
You have understood, right? When you're doing pyramid loading, just repeating it, you are exerting point load over here of 250%. This can exceed your permissible load density of the tank top. While if you do non-pyramid loading, then you are exerting only 200%. As I said, this is important to understand that even if you are following the correct method, recommended method, you will still need to calculate your tank top load density even if you are reaching 200%. Is it okay? Is it okay with your hash tank top, your particular vessel? If yes, then you can go ahead. In non-pyramid loading, only twice the coil weight is pressed onto the tank top over here. So technically, this particular coil is exerting 200%. Right. So this is about loading coils and securing them with key coils. With key coils. Now there is a possibility that you are told to accept imperfect and damaged coils for the purpose of transport. Understanding with a cargo operator and charterer, you may be told that you have to transport or you have to load imperfect and damaged coils. This is okay because this is instruction from the charterer agreed upon by the ship owner. But if you are doing this, this should be done in a separate lot. Badly damaged coils should not be stored in the should be stored in the second or top tier, independently lashed and clearly identifiable that this was damaged prior loading. After that, do not load any cargo on top because once the coil is damaged, if you load some cargo, overstow it with another cargo, the blame will fall back on the vessel that this was damaged during transport because you had overstowed. Now, this of course has to be recorded documented separately in bill of lading or bed sheet with the lot number, with the coil number actually. This is another product, wire rod. Have a look at here, this one, damaged coil. Just give me a minute. This is called coiled wire rod, and in short, it is also addressed as wirer. Wirer. This one. This is also a steel product, widely shipped from ex-Brazilian ports for China. Wirer. Lot of dunnage used, and also dunnage against bulkheads. If you are loading steel plates, then you should store it fore and aft athwartship dunnage. Athwartship dunnage laid and stored fore and aft. In a square sided hole means obviously the hole will be square sized, square. Then you store the dunnage athwartship and steel plate fore and aft. Like this. Steel plate, athwartship dunnage, but in between this is chalked. In between the plates have been filled with dunnage or chalked. Are you aware of the word toming used in steel loading? Chalking and toming. You see this part where you have used dunnage or timber to square up against the bulkhead is called toming. When you are loading plates like this, please remember bottom tier or bottom stove will have dunnage, yes, but next tier will also carry dunnage on top of the plates. Dunnage is used extensively to avoid steel to steel contact. right? So this was about also using uh, steel coils with key coil. Have you followed it? Any question you want to raise? Okay, if you're not saying anything, we can start to end the session unless you have a question. We'll meet again. I think we have class tomorrow also.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, ji. You may respond to this feedback, chat feedback. That will take care. हाँ